This is Johan from Amon Amarth. You are listening to the Rock Pit Podcast. Yeah. I think the first discussions we had about making a new album was at the end of the tour we did, like the touring cycle that we did. We were discussing a little bit of what to do, like what approach to take to the new album, and how we could do something different, something unexpected. So that was kind of the first kind of talks we had. But when we finally kind of sat down and started writing stuff, it's a little bit tricky because of the approach we took to make this into a concept album. Basically, I had already started writing the story for it when we took that decision. Then, like musically and lyrically, I think we started working a little bit on it in maybe like 8-9 months ago. And then progressively just kept going. The story that I wrote used the saga of the Jomsviking, which is a book written down in the 12th century, I think. I used that as like the foundation of the story, which is basically the reason why things happen. You know, certain things happen to the main character in the story. But the story is about a young man in love with a young girl, but she's being married off, and he tries to run away with her, but they get caught, and he kills a man. So he has to flee. As he's running away, he comes across the Jomsviking, and he joins their crew and becomes a Jomsviking, hence the title. And through the Jomsviking, he finds a way to come back to his homeland, and his hope is to have revenge and win back his girl. But the problem is that when he comes back, she doesn't really want him anymore. So it's not a happy end. Well, yes, it was. I think we wanted to challenge ourselves and do something that we've never done before. It felt like we needed to mix things up for this album. I mean, we've done a bunch of great albums now, I think, with Odin on Our Side, Twilight of the Thunder God, Surtur Rising, and then Deceiver of the Gods. And we felt that we needed a new challenge. And we were talking about what to do for that. And I had started writing this story as a little private project, more or less. And I told the guys, like, I have this story that we could use for a concept. So what do you think? You know, showed it to them, and they liked the idea, and we decided to go for that. I think in some ways it's easier because, like, you have this part of the story, you have this, like, this is what you want to portray. So you kind of know where you want to go with the music, what kind of song, what type of music you want, and how the song is going to go to kind of convey the emotions in that part of the story. Same with the lyrics, really. You kind of have to take that part of the story and just kind of take the essence of it and turn it into lyrics. But in another way, it's more difficult because it's not always that you can force your creativity, like musically, and kind of say, well, I need a song that's very like epic here because the story is very epic. And you go like, yeah, but I don't have any of those ideas. What do I do? You know. But on the other hand, sometimes reading that part then can inspire you to come up with some epic stuff. So I think it's a bit of both. It could be tricky to find the right inspiration, but at the same time, I think when you do find the right inspiration, it can be very creative to have something to look at and see, like, yeah, now this will come, and and you keep going. But it was a challenge, really, to get everything to come together musically and lyrically and story-wise, and try to make all the songs work together. And the lyrics to kind of bind together in a good way, so that you have this feel that when you listen to the album from track 1 to track 11, that, all right, this is a story. I'm going on this journey now. But we also wanted to do, which kind of made it even harder, what we wanted to do is we wanted to make all the songs be able to stand on their own, lyrically and musically, so that if you just want to listen to one of the songs, you can take it out and put it on, oh, that's a good song. or you can put it into the context and go like, oh man, this works so well together. That was hard. We wanted to start there. I mean, obviously, if you read the script, it starts a bit earlier, but that's kind of the pivotal point where like kind of his journey begins right there and then with that first kill. So it was a really good start for lyrically, and I think the music is perfect, as you say. In many ways, a typical Amon Amarth opener, which is exactly what we wanted, because we want our fans to hear that it's Amon Amarth, but there are different levels to all the songs on this album that maybe it's not so commonly Amon Amarth. I think there are a lot of new elements in there, but I don't think any old fan will be disappointed, if you know what I mean. I guess honestly that would probably be a better question for Johan Söderberg and Olavi, but I think like normally they find their inspiration by listening to other music, or but on this occasion also from the story, the lyrics, and because they knew what was needed. I know, for instance, now that we've been on this promotional little trip, me and Johan Söderberg, we've been talking a little bit about that, and especially for him, I think 1,000 Burning Arrows is one of those songs where he sat down and was like, I'm gonna write this kind of really like hymn type of burial song, and I think he did a really great job at it. But he worked very hard on it as well. So, but that particular song, he was very much inspired by the story and the lyrics. I guess you kind of have to explain what the Jomsvikings were to begin with. Basically, they were an order of Viking elite warriors, mercenaries, in the 10th century, and they're really kind of shrouded in mystery. There are even debates of if they really existed or not, but they do have their own like saga in Norse mythology, and they're mentioned in many like historical, like in many texts from like their early medieval times. So I think they did exist. How important they were is, debatable, I guess. But as I said, they're mentioned in several places. I kind of had the idea that maybe if you give this to the right person, it could become a movie. I mean, it's written as a script, but I sent it to someone who really liked it. But for someone to say, well, I like the story, and then for it to actually happen that it becomes a movie, those are two different things. And we'll see, maybe something will happen about it, maybe not. It's not a big deal. It's just fun to, I mean, since it was there, might as well send it out, Well, we're definitely friends now, but I think that we were friends before as well. We only met her a couple of times. She watched a show at Wacken last time we played there from the side of the stage. And she's just a fantastic person, amazing artist, obviously an icon and a legend. And we had this idea for the duet to have a female singer for this song. And for us, it was the obvious choice to ask Doro. I don't think we even thought about anybody else, really. It's not really what I set out to do, but it's sure you can draw some parallels to today's life. And one thing that actually kind of struck me, and that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to get across, really, is because the metal world is a very macho world in many ways. But I wanted to get across the fact that in the Viking age, women had a much stronger position in the society than they eventually had when Scandinavia was christened. Because with Christianity, the patriarchal system came into place, where women was pushed down and men took the power. And it kind of was important for me with the female character, even though she's not so much on the album. She's mentioned a couple of times, and obviously we have the duet with Dora Pesch. where the female character is in there. You know, the character is as described, is not like a pushover. You know, it's an independent, strong-headed woman. You know, with her own will and her own life, and that I thought that was important to show that there was an equality to that life that was lost later on. The song is trying to describe the Jomsvikings as a group, like what they were, because as I mentioned earlier, they were like an elite force of Viking soldiers, warriors, and they had a very strict code. They would fight very hard. It was all about the brotherhood, and so we kind of wanted to describe the main character training to become like a proper Jomsviking, and also describe the Jomsvikings as a fierce group of warriors that, you know, are very skilled on the battlefield. So the story here is basically about a training, a one-on-one battle basically between two guys, two Jomsvikings, the main character and a friend of his. And they're like fighting full on, like it's on for real, that they're going to kill each other. But obviously it's training. It says in the chorus, it's full on fighting training. It's the way of Vikings. So it's like just to portray the fact that this is really a tough life. You know, they train hard and they fight hard. You know, it's a funny song though, because it's one of those songs where before I wrote the lyrics, I was sitting there trying to find an angle to it, and I just couldn't get it, and I didn't like the song. I thought it was boring. I thought it was horrible. I was like, ugh, fucking hell, man, this is crap. And I even told the other guys, like, do we really need to have this? Can we come up with something better than this? And everybody said, yeah, but you should try to do something anyway. See what you can. All right. And then all of a sudden, the vocal line came into place. I started writing something, and I got the idea. And all of a sudden, it just started going like really quickly. And all of a sudden, I had the whole lyrics, and I recorded like a rough demo of it. And I was like, holy crap, this is a good song now. It's like, it's so weird, you know, that little detail just flipped the coin for me, really. You know, it really turned my frown upside down, if you know what I mean. I think it's because they're kind of mythical almost. I mean, the fact that they did exist, but, you know, people know so little about them in general. And the more people start to learn about them, the more fascinating they become, because all of a sudden you realize they were not just, you know, plundering wild men. They were actually very sophisticated people with, you know, strict social code. I've come to view them as actually very political in many ways. They would travel the world. They would go to a new country and they would say, hey, this is what we want. This is our political goal. Give it to us or we will invade. You know, which is like they use their military knowledge, like their fighting force, as leverage in their negotiations, which everybody does that these days. You know, it's nothing uncommon. They were just particularly good at fighting, you know, so people were afraid of them. But they were really, really smart. They were really intelligent people, but they also had integrity, and they were honest people. If they gave you their word, they would hold it, which I think is a trait that is in some ways lost today in politics and in the society. There's a lot of people promising stuff that they cannot keep. And I guess that society perhaps is a bit more complex today, but still, there's so many aspects to the Vikings, I think, that people are starting to understand that are fascinating. But for me, when I started, you know, learning about Vikings when I was a kid, I thought it was much more exciting than like reading Lord of the Rings books or anything like my friends did, you know, because the Vikings, they actually did exist at one point, you know, they were real. So for me, that was very exciting, you know. I'm a huge Motorhead fan. I've always been, you know, since I was a very young child. Yeah, I mean, he was an icon, a legend in his own time. And I think that the rock and roll world will be less interesting without him, I think. You know, there's never going to be another Lemmy. I'm sure of it. It's never going to happen. I mean, that guy was rock and roll through and through. I mean, he was a roadie for Jimi Hendrix and Rolling Stones, for fuck's sake, you know? And then, you know, Hawkwind and Motorhead and his all his, you know, rock and roll career with Motorhead, it was really, I wouldn't say it was a shock when he died, because obviously you'd heard that he was ill, and you kind of was prepared. I mean, after all, he was 70 years old. But it still felt really, really sad, you know. I'm just happy that I got to meet him at least once and talk a little bit with him, and it was super, super cool. And, you know, I'm happy I got to see them Motorhead play in my hometown this past summer. It was a fantastic show, really, really good. So that's a good last memory I have of Motorhead and Lemmy. So I'm happy about that. I think I admire a band that know who they are and stick to their guns a lot, but a band that also are willing to make changes and write what they feel is right at the moment for them. That actually kind of takes balls, because you know people are going to get upset. That's just the way it is. So I admire that as well. It's not what we would do. We know who we are and what we are musically, and we will stick to our guns because this is what we love. But I happen to know through Brian Slagle, obviously from Metal Blade, who's good friends with both the Slayer camp and the Metallica camp. I happen to know how Metallica writes songs, and when he told me, it really made a lot of sense to me that they do that, and that makes me also really respect them, because he said they write the music they listen to at the moment, always. So whatever they're into at the moment is what's going to inspire their next album. And to me, that's a bunch of people who love music, you know, in all its forms, and they can find inspiration in almost anything. And I think that you don't have to like it, but you have to respect it, you know. Yeah, we have some touring stuff coming up, and we have a bunch of festivals and stuff. When it comes to the Amon Amarth show, we always try to put on a very energetic show and be something visual and something entertaining to watch, as well as, you know, play the music that hopefully our fans love and enjoy to hear. But I think one of the key factors about our band is that we always try to make sure that the audience feels that they are a part of the show, because they are, always. That's one thing you can be sure of, is that if you feel that the audience is bad, you're going to have you know, it's going to be tough playing the show. But if you have a great audience, it's easy to do the show. And the trick about that is, if you have an audience that maybe are a bit held back for some reason, then you have to double your efforts. You have to be more out there, more, come on guys, you know. And that's what we want to do. We want to have, you know, have people enjoy the show and feel like they're part of the show, because without the audience there is no show. We might as well be standing at home in a rehearsal place. I think in many ways, you know, it's frustrating when you start out. You want to become this, you know, you want to take big steps immediately. Fortunately enough, we've been very patient in our progress, and I think patience is one of the things that if you want to be successful as a musician, you need to be patient. And I also think that don't take everything you do too seriously, because if there's one thing I know that will happen, and that always happens, is that things will never work out exactly how you imagine it. I mean, a road is never straight. There's always twists and turns, and sometimes it stops, and you have to back up and see, wow, oh, there's another road. You just have to be, open-minded and realize that the universe is not about you, and things will change, and you have to be patient and sometimes stubborn. Believe in what you do, because even if the road stops, that doesn't mean you can't make another road right there. It's about looking at things from different angles and not lose your heart when things go bad. There's always lessons to be learned. Hi, this is Johan from Amon Amarth. Our 10th full-length album, Jomsviking, will be in stores on March 25th via Sony Music. Go get it, it's gonna kick your ass.